What the what? Okay. Look, this is a Raider channel, and you clicked on the video because of the title or the thumbnail. Oops, I hit my mic. I'm excited. And by the way, this is not being recorded after the Super Bowl. Shut up, computer. It is being recorded a day later because I had this idea in my mind right after the Super Bowl to trade for said player in the title. We'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to sleep upon it and see, am I being hyperbolic or is this how I actually feel? Because when I put it out there, then it's out there. Obviously, we're humans. There's a little bit of nuance, a little bit of gray area to all the argumentative thoughts that we have. I could always come back and pull back on this opinion but for right now, this is how I feel. But before we get into that Super Bowl. I think that's the most fun I've had watching a Super Bowl in a long time. Because the Chiefs were in 3 in a row. They won the last 2, so those weren't great. And before that, I can't really remember. Like, the Bengals and the Rams was, like, cool, I guess. But that was one of the most enjoyable experience I've had watching a football game that doesn't involve my team in a long time. And I was watching it with a couple of my buddies who were all obviously rooting for the Eagles. And I asked them, would you guys rather it be a close game or a blowout? And now they're not Raider fans, but they all have that disdain for the Chiefs. And they said, well, I kind of would like a close game. I said, I want this thing to be 100-0. And when he threw that pick six to make it 17-0, I looked at them and I said, you still feel like you want this to be a close game? And you know what they said? Run it up. Leave no doubt. Remember the freaking Titans. Remember the Eagles. We're flying, Eagles flying. Oh my God, what an experience. That was the outcome of the game that was the most justified based on the rosters that were in play. And this is how I weave my way to the Raiders. Because the Kansas City Chiefs, we've all been saying this, their point differential is, the whole season has been like 6. They're like +6. They are the worst 15-win team in the history of the National Football League. They did not cross the 50-yard line until late into the third quarter. The Eagles had the significantly better roster, and it showed. Now, the Chiefs might have had the better quarterback. Might have. I'll talk about that in a second. But where was this game won and lost? On the line, in the trenches. Jalen Carter, Walker, Graham, Zach Bond, Sweat, smoking this wannabe facade, fake offensive line that the Kansas City Chiefs had. We've got consistent pressure on them with or without Max Crosby playing the game. With him being doubled the whole time. Without Christian Wilkins. If we could do it, the Howie Roseman built Philadelphia Eagles can do it. And this just goes to show you that before you got to get the quarterback. You need to have the roster in place. And now with Patrick Graham returning and Pete Carroll, again, I can't stress this enough, the coach of one of the greatest defenses of the last 2 decades of football, maybe the greatest defense of my lifetime, between the Legion of Boom and the Legion of Boom and the no-fly zone. It's right up there. He is now going to be the architect of whatever we have moving forward on the defense. And if we re-sign a couple people and extend Crosby, we're going to start to see a change in this division with the defenses being at the forefront. Because the Broncos have a great defense. The Chargers have a great defense. The Chiefs have a great defense. Didn't show up yesterday at all. Aging defense. Chris Jones, 30 years old. Don't sleep. Here's what I would do if I was John Spytek right now. I'd get Max Crosby in the building. I'd say, yo, bro, what do you want? You want 2 years? You want 3 years? You want 4 years? This is the number we got. We can negotiate, but you're going to be a Raider. Whether you like it or not. And he does like it. He wants to be a Raider. Don't let anything else fool you. So we sign him on the dotted line. Then we get him and Christian Wilkins in a room, and we give them the number of Myles Garrett. And they call Myles and they go, hey, Myles. And they say, hey, Max. And Myles says, hey, did you watch that Super Bowl? Myles says, yeah, of course I did. And Max says, hey, what if we did that twice a year to Patrick Mahomes? And Myles Garrett would say, yeah, but the roster, the quarterback, we'll take care of the quarterback. You heard of Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold? We'll get somebody that's been 10 times better than the guy that you've been playing with. Hey, Myles Garrett, didn't you make the playoffs with Joe Flacco? You don't worry about the quarterback position. We got that under control with Spytek and Carroll and Tom Brady. You want to run this thing in the AFC West? You want to be one of the most dominant defensive lines in the history of the National Football League? Because we're going to bring Malcolm Kuntz back too. And it's going to be like NASCAR out there. It's going to be like hockey shifts. Pete Carroll's going to be shifting in and out. Crosby, Wilkins, Caleb Chason, Kuntz, Snowden. The list goes on and on. Hey, Myles, you want to be a part of this? And if he says yes, you give the phone to Paul DePodesta or whoever's running the Cleveland Browns at this point, and you say, hey, you're training Myles Garrett, right? Okay, what's your price? You want the 6th pick? You want our 3rd? You want a 1st next year? Here you go. Now you've got Myles Garrett, probably the best defensive lineman of the last however many years, outside, not interior. That's Aaron Donald. Max Crosby on either side with Wilkins up the middle. There's your Philadelphia Eagles right there. You do whatever it takes to convince Myles Garrett. You will figure out the quarterback position. You're going to come to play in Vegas. We'll get you a new contract. No state income tax. You and Max Crosby will be the face of the AFC on the defensive line of the football. That's exactly what I would do following this Super Bowl. The blueprint is there. The blueprint was kind of made by us Christmas Day 2 years ago. The Eagles have followed it up. If you can get pressure on Mahomes, it doesn't even matter if he's the greatest to ever do it, which he's not. He doesn't even pass Joe Montana. Joe Montana, 11 touchdowns, no picks, 4-0 in Super Bowls. That's how you beat him. You don't beat him by outscoring him. He gave the Chiefs 14 points himself. They didn't have to score. Saquon Barkley didn't have to do anything. We need a running back. We need a quarterback. Enough. We do need those things. Those things will help us win games. What we need to do is create the fear of God into our opponents with this defense. You want to talk about the Raider way? The Eagles just showed you what the Raiders used to look like in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. You do whatever it takes to draft Myles Garrett. To trade for Myles Garrett. I have draft on the brain because I'm now going to transition to, now look, if the offer is too steep, the Browns want too much, if someone's going to overpay, or if Myles doesn't want to play for the Raiders, I get that. Oh, you don't have a quarterback. They literally won a playoff game with Joe Flacco. So let us worry about the quarterback, Myles. If that can't happen, I would consider trading up for Abdul Carter or drafting Mason Graham if he's there. Is that his name, Mason Graham? I would invest every single penny into this defense before you start worrying about who's throwing the pill around. Because even if you don't have a great quarterback, which Jalen Hurts is pretty good if not great, no doubt about it. But even if they had Kenny Pickett out there, it would have been a close game. If Kenny Pickett was playing quarterback, this would have been like a close game because their Eagles defense was so dominant. So if John Spytek finds a way to trade it to one, I would still consider going Abdul Carter instead of a quarterback. And drafting a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round and getting a Stafford in the building or a Rodgers or a Darnold or a Fields or a Wilson. Or Wilson. 2 of them out there. That's how you start to build this thing. And then you develop that young rookie in the 2nd round. Now, some reports are saying Shedeur might fall to 6. If he falls to 6 and you really believe Tom Brady, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, John Spytek, that he's a franchise quarterback, okay, you got to take him. I'm not going to complain about that. But I've been going back and forth on should they take McMillan with the 6th pick? Should they take Genty? You got to take, if Abdul Carter or Mason Graham is there, you got to trick out this defensive line. That is the blueprint to beating them. We have been able to compete with them and beat them with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew throwing the ball because our defense was that good against them. Their offensive line is not good. Their offense is not good. They can't run the ball. They can't block. And that's who you got to be in our division. If you could beat them, you could beat the other two teams. But that's who you got to beat. And we've been able to do it with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Or compete at the very least. So you sign a Sam Darnold for 30 or an Aaron Rodgers for 15 or you trade for a Stafford. We'll talk about quarterbacks in a separate video. I plan on doing that on my Bleacher Report live stream. But you can't go Genti at 6. I don't think you can. You can't go McMillan at 6. My computer's blowing up. You can't go offense at 6 unless it's a quarterback that you really want to draft. You got to go defensive line. Line. That's how this game is won. Our offensive line is starting to improve. It's starting to get to the point where we used to be with Derek Carr. Focus on the defensive line. Re-sign Max Crosby. Do not trade him. Trade up for Abdul Carter. Maybe he falls to you. I don't think he will, but maybe he does. If he does, take him immediately. Draft Mason Graham. But priority number 1 after the extension of Max Crosby is to call the Cleveland Browns. Offer them a significant deal to get Myles Garrett. Because as good as Abdul Carter and Mason Graham should be, Myles Garrett already is a Hall of Famer. Ever heard of it? Canton, Ohio. That is now the blueprint. And then, from there, you find your running back in the second round, your quarterback in round 2 or 3. You got free agents to sign. We'll talk about the whole offseason. I plan on making a full video on that soon. But that's my main takeaway from the Super Bowl. You can beat the Chiefs team with average quarterback play. Not saying Jalen Hurts was average. He was great. But defense wins championships, and that was the first thing out of Jalen's mouth when he was getting interviewed by Aaron Andrews. Defense wins championships. They could not stop them at all. Myles Garrett should be the Raiders' number 1 priority. And if I see any comments from people that go, why would Myles Garrett want to go to the Raiders? I don't know. This isn't a Myles Garrett YouTube channel. This isn't a Cleveland Browns YouTube channel. I'm telling you what I would do as the GM or the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. This would be my course of action. It's now on them to convince him to want to play here. That's how it works. I don't have all the answers. I'm just giving you my opinion on what they should do. Why would he want to come here? I don't care. Although I have said they've won playoff games with Joe Flacco. Let us worry about the quarterback, Myles. You go get Patrick Mahomes twice a year. Twice a year. It's not a bad idea. What say you? Comment below your thoughts. Join the Discord. Link is in the description below. Join the Patreon. You get your name at the end of the credits. You get videos early, days in advance. You get exclusive content, never before seen videos. Ad-free content. You think we're slowing down because the season's over? No. We've only just begun. Please be sure to subscribe. It's free. I don't charge you. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.